What is art? We could run around all day with this question. One person says, "Come, look what I've made. It's an absolute revelation." Everyone runs to follow him into a local public restroom, whereupon they rest their eyes on what could only be described as human feces. Now, everyone could exclaim their disagreements as to this man's toilet deposit and whether or not it is art. But what it comes down to is one's own description of art, no matter what the subject is. Wenstone, a professor at the University of Texas at Dallas, describes art as being a revelation of some truth. Others may describe it as a revelation of values. Other descriptions involve emotion. Now, the item on today's table is whether or not video games pass for art. Now, this is a difficult debate because the subject matter is very diverse. By that I mean there are so many different kinds of video games. With all the collaborative arts out there, none of them have fallen under the attack such as video games. One of the reasons for this is that video games are new, infants compared to the other arts, with the exception of film, however. Another reason is because of the target audience. Most other art forms' audience includes a generally narrow demographic, the art critic. These are the ones who have found a place where they enjoy talking about something they hate more than something they love. Thus, these critics have become more like snobs and have nothing constructive to say about the matter. Thus, video games have painted a large red target on themselves, mainly because they've excluded these critics. Most critics who beat down video games and their audiences have never played a video game, or go into playing a video game having already made up their minds as to whether or not they will hate it. It's much like a child deciding he hates green vegetables before he ever tries them. The target audience of video games is 18 to 30-year-old males. Noted, there are exceptions, but that's the winning majority. So they throw a blanket statement on the whole kit and caboodle. Video games will never be art. No other genre is attacked in this way. No one says painting will never be an art form. Some may say Dadaism is never art, but never the whole genre. Video games have a wide variety of forms and styles. There are first-person shooters like Halo and Call of Duty. There are role-playing games like the Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest series. Aaron Mutz believes that critics need to take a closer look at their own definitions of art. He states that, "I argue, according to most major theories of art, many video games should be considered art. So maybe it's just the fact that video games are something to hate, a bandwagon for these critics to jump on. If one critic were to see video games as artistic and publish something about them, he would be an outcast. His former colleagues would shout blasphemy." The simple fact is that video games should be considered art just as any other film, theater production, or opera. It's a collaborative art. Not every film is meant to be seen artistically. So is the same with video games. There are some video games that are just meant to be crude, tasteless fun. Isn't that right, Mad World? Games such as Shadow of the Colossus are an excellent example of how video games could be an artistic representation of epics like the Odyssey. Other games like Fallout plunge you into vast worlds. Probably one of the best things going for video games artistically is their narratives, like the Metal Gear Solids. In the end, though, it boils down to personal preference and opinion. Some art critics think video games are replacing books as a means of recreation or something, and they have to have some reason to hate them. But that's not true. Video games are not just a mindless way to pass the time. They're deep and engaging narratives, beautifully composed music, and vivid worlds, all crafted to make an amazing experience.